Steph, welcome to Alternative Chef. So Steph, you're a dietitian. Can you tell us a bit about what you do in your areas of specialty?
Yeah. So I see people who may have irritable bowel syndrome or functional gastrointestinal symptoms. I also see people who have coeliac disease or Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. And then I also work in the area of endurance nutrition as well, so sports nutrition.
So for you, Steph, what were your reasons for getting into those areas?
I found out that I had irritable bowel syndrome when I was in my teenage years, and at that stage I was given very general advice from my gastroenterologist. Mainly the information that was given at that stage was avoid windy foods and just try and manage your symptoms. And over time we've now learned a lot more about irritable bowel syndrome and functional gut symptoms and what dietary triggers there are that can influence those symptoms. And so now that we have this knowledge, I'd like to help and share other people that also experience irritable bowel syndrome and other functional gut symptoms. The main triggers that we've got a lot of evidence now for that trigger irritable bowel syndrome are what we term collectively as FODMAPs. And it stands for a really big, long, scary name. But basically what they are, they're a group of poorly absorbed, rapidly fermentable carbohydrates that some people do not absorb very effectively in their small intestine, and they end up in the latter part of the small intestine or the large intestine. And that's where we naturally have bacteria. But then what happens is the bacteria then break down the FODMAPs, and in that process they produce gas and byproducts. And that's what can influence these abdominal symptoms such as abdominal pain, abdominal bloating, wind, alternating bowel movements. So you have a range of abdominal symptoms that can be influenced by the FODMAPs. And what we need to do for the individual that's affected by the IBS is to work out if FODMAPs are triggering their symptoms, what are the main triggers and what is the tolerance level.
And so when you were first diagnosed, what obstacles did you come across?
First of all, finding out the foods that I could tolerate, and then understanding how I'm then going to change my diet. So it was about changing the habits that I've grown up with for so long and using foods that were new to me. So really the points that I try and emphasise with my clients are, first, yes, I'll explain to them what irritable bowel syndrome is or what their condition is, so they have a very good understanding of that. And then telling them the foods that they may need to avoid. But the most important thing that I like to emphasise are the foods that they can have, because that's what they need to know. Then how do they use those foods and find those foods.
And so for your clients, what kinds of things do you find that they're coming back complaining of?
So because the diet is new to them, they then struggle to either find the foods, they don't know how to read food labels, so I need to teach them about ingredients and how to read food labels, and also the practical side of things, so how do you cook with those foods, and how do you find them in the supermarket.
And so do you think that something like Alternative Chef would be beneficial for your clients?
Definitely, yeah. Clients are always looking to learn how to cook with the foods that they are allowed to have, and because the foods are new to them, they feel perhaps a little bit intimidated or scared because they haven't used those foods before. So giving them that practical knowledge is really important, because I can give them all of the information, the theoretical information, but if they don't know how to use that practically, the diet's not going to be effective for them. They're not going to follow it, so therefore they're not going to get an improvement in their symptoms. So yeah, I would definitely find it a good resource for them to have.
Excellent. Thanks, Steph.